where sports meets that thing called life. I hope you're having yourself a wonderful morning this morning on a Friday morning, and hopefully you're enjoying your week. And if you're not, what have you been doing? You got to enjoy your week. You got to make the time, got to take the time to take the time and make sure that you are treating yourselves nicely, being good to others, but being good to yourself too. I think some of us are really nice to other people, but we're not nice to ourselves, and some of us are really nice to ourselves, but not necessarily nice to other people. So you got to do both. That's how this world runs in the right direction. So make sure that you're being good to each other, being good to yourself, and having yourself a great morning. I appreciate being here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You can also find them on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners, and that is in North Syracuse at their drive-through location. And you can find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. So however you get out to Cafe Kubal today, make sure you get out to them. Let them know that we sent you from Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and fill your cup up right. They got all the pumpkin goodness for the holiday season and the fall season, and of course they also have their incredible coffees always there for you, their teas, their chais, and all of those awesome cookies and treats and sandwiches and so many great things that are available for you at Cafe Kubal. So head out there today. You are watching and listening to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on many different outlets worldwide. Wherever you are, you're on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, and MixLR.com, all /Wake Up Call DT. So however you've connected with us here on the show today, we thank you so much for being a part of it. You can also find us on the homepage of WakeUpCallDT.com, our website that you need to subscribe and keep and bookmark, and you can find us as well on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. So however you're connecting with the show, thanks so much for being with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We have an incredible broadcast set up here for you this morning. A lot of great things that are going to be happening on today's show. And I am always excited to bring you the show. Ross saying, have a great Friday show. Thank you, brother. I hope you have a fantastic day yourself, and I look forward to seeing you soon as we're going to be able to spend some time together. Haven't seen Ross in a minute face-to-face, so it'll be good to see him soon. Make sure you check on your friends, check on your family, folks. Go and see the people that you love. Make those phone calls. I'm the type of person where I want to see you face-to-face. If I can't see you face-to-face, I call you. And then if that's not something, if you're busy or you're at work or whatever, then that's where the text messages come in. So I am a see you, then call you, then text you. Some people, I just text. It's just me. And it's just like, I'm not a phone person. You hear people say that, I'm not a phone person, right? And to me, it's like saying, I don't like to check in with people, I don't like to see how family's doing. I'm not a phone person, right? I'm not into seeing what's going on in people's lives. I kind of just like to sit out here by myself. And, hearing that I'm not a phone person, I had a friend that used to say that to me. That's probably going to lead into the annoying moment of the week. And so we should probably just hop right into it. But inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping this morning. We got a lot of stuff popping for you. We have our trio of signature segments every Friday to bring you into TGIF. We start with the annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like, and it is the longest standing segment on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Then we'll jump into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. Lead is proudly presented by the fantastic teams at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. They're led by Jimmer Sikowski, an incredible human being and one of my closest, nearest, and dearest friends. So always happy to bring you Lead, which stands for Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. And Lead is going to come to you today focusing on the topic of establishing your peace. So we'll be discussing that. Then we'll get into the top dog of the week to start off hour number 2, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Top dog of the week is going to be featuring Nick Dimitrievski following his team get in a dub in the postseason for the USCAA National Tournament. They're trying to become back-to-back-to-back national champions, folks. Let me say it again. They're working to become back-to-back-to-back national champions. They got a game today at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and following their victory, they came on penalty kicks, went through the normal run of soccer, the 2 periods, then went into extra time, and then went into penalty kicks, won that 4-3. Giovanni Galina saved 2 of those, and very excited about the fact that the team is moving on and playing today. So we are honoring the men's soccer team at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse as our top dogs of the week, and we'll be featuring one of their own, Nick Dimitrievski, their head coach and athletic director at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, as he joins me this morning to speak on the team's victory yesterday. So a lot of great stuff coming up with that. And then we're going to round out the show, go a little bit over today. I know we're supposed to end at 11. We'll probably end a little bit after 11:15, as we're going to spend a good amount of time with the American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco this morning, as him and I are going to be tackling a lot of different things going on in college football. Speaking on the college topics of today, we look at the expanded playoff, what that means for the American Athletic, where that puts the American Athletic as far as in conjunction with the Sun Belt, and is this, opportunity, what does this create for everybody, and what are the at-large teams and whatnot. We'll talk about the Power 5, Power 6, Power 2. We'll also get into NIL, the transfer portal, and so much more. So a lot of great stuff coming up, and the schedule was released. The American Athletic Conference, you can see the flag behind me here, the American Athletic Conference has an all-new schedule for 2023 through 2026, and I have the opportunity to speak with Mike Aresco, the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, on the heels of that coming into fruition. So very excited about everything we're going to get to talk about today with the Commish on the college football topics of today. So we'll take a look at that in hour number 2. With that being said, it is time to get into the annoying moment of the week. I'm laughing because I never know exactly where I'm going to go. I know I'm going to go places, but we'll see where I end up in the annoying moment of the week here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. Proudly presented by the wonderful team at Carvel DeWitt, as we get set to bring you. It makes me smile to do this segment. It gives me an opportunity to go off about something, but in a fun way, every single week.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The annoying moment of the week.
I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
You have to be that crazy. I guess so.
The annoying moment of the week for this week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Well, we'll start with what I was talking about before, the I'm not a phone person, right? The people that say that. We all have friends that say that. I'm not a phone person. I don't do the phone. Sorry. And it's just like, really, bro? But, I'm not a phone person. And what does that mean? I'm not a phone person. Well, I don't like to be on the phone. I don't like to hold the phone. When I hold the phone, it makes my arm hurt. This, that, and whatever, and yada, 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 and all the blah, blah, bull. What I've learned from people that are not phone people, and I can't speak for everybody because not everybody is the same, but I can tell you that I've had friends that are not quote-unquote phone people, and those people are typically the people that you can't rely on, the ones that aren't there for you, the ones that are more selfish. Seems to be a connection between I'm not a phone person and I'm selfish, right? I'll text you all day long, 5,000 times a day, but I can't pick up the phone and talk to you. And then I had friends that used to say to me, you know what? You should consider yourself very lucky. You should consider yourself blessed because you're one of the only people I talk on the phone with. You know I hate the phone, yet I sat on the phone with you for an hour this past week. So you, of all people, should be appreciative at the fact that I did it. And I said, well, thank you, King, for somehow finding this peasant farmer in your land and allowing me to cometh into your house and eateth your food. Stop. Okay? If you're not a phone person, there's usually a correlation of that to selfishness. I'm not a phone person. You should feel very blessed that I'm on the phone with you right now. You should feel very honored by me. Shut it. Okay? Shut it. So, that's where it's at. That's how I feel. It's one of my annoying moments of the week because I just remember, why did I put up with that from some of my friends, If you call me on the phone, I'm here for you, right? 99.9% of the time, I answer, no matter how busy I am. And if I don't answer right away, I call you back. I get in touch with you. I text you, hey, got your message? I'll call you back. So that's me, right? I know. I just don't like to talk. I just don't like to converse with people. And it's like, you're a human being. How do you go through life not talking to people, right? Do you ever meet somebody like that? I know people like that don't speak. They go to places, they sit, they listen, and they rarely say a word. They might say 9 words in like 3 hours. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you know what? That's your prerogative, right? That's one way to live your life. But is it fun? Do you get anything out of it? I guess you learn stuff because you're listening to people. But what are you contributing, right? How do you make a lasting impression on someone's life by just kind of sitting there, right? And you could say, well, Dan, because you're there, right? You show up. And I agree with that. I agree that showing up is more than half the battle. But I also believe that, coming from a family where some people spoke and some people didn't, you don't feel a lot of love from the people that are just kind of sitting in silence, especially when you're spilling your heart to them or asking questions or trying to learn about things. I think it's imperative that people communicate. And in the last couple of years, I'm not a phone person. I was like, well, hopefully the last 2 years has taught people how to be phone people, how to FaceTime, because you couldn't see the ones you love. You couldn't be around the ones you love. It wasn't as easy as it was before. So hopefully now people take more time to spend time together, to be around each other. I get tired. People commonly think, well, you're a broadcaster. You like to talk all the time. You never like to listen. You just like to listen to yourself yap it up. Not true. Because if that was the case, I wouldn't have anything to talk about on my show because I would stop learning. See, when I get to come on this show and I get to talk about different things, and I say get to because it's a privilege and an honor from God, I get to share things that I've learned. Share things that have made me better. I'm not a perfect person. Everybody makes mistakes. And I've learned from my mistakes. And when you learn from those and you share those, or you have stories and different things that you can bring to people, that's from interacting with other life. It's for opening your heart up and learning different things, seeing different things, getting to know different things. And I'm not here, again, as always, never here to witch hunt. I just find it funny that people can say, I'm not a phone person. You ever go on a dating app and the person's like, I just text. And it's like, well, you could be a 40-year-old, 500-pound man that's talking to me right now, because who would know? So I just find it, at least in my life, that when people struggle to interact with people, there's a deeper reason why, and it's finding out that reason why and not copping out that, right? Why are you so quiet? Why are you so silent? And why are you not willing to carve out time for people? That's another pet peeve, right? That's another annoying moment of the week. The people that are too busy. If I showed you what I did in a given day and how much I don't sleep, people have this connotation of, you're a broadcaster. You get to do what you love. You wake up in the morning, you do your show in the studio, and then you have the rest of the day to piss around. If I did that, I wouldn't be successful. So, in a given day, in my world, there's a lot of things that go on. And I think that, people have this misconception of how, people get jealous, right? People get upset because a lot of people settle. And a lot of people work in jobs they don't like, and they're in relationships that aren't good for them. I look at myself, if I wake up in the morning, I'm 37 years old, and I say, why don't I have kids? And I look at the people I dated, and I go, well, because if I had kids with these people, look at how bad my kid's life would have been. So as much as I don't have kids, God put a purpose to that. I say, man, why am I not married right now? Well, I was. And it was to the wrong person. And I knew that the day I got married, and I tried to make it better from that day. So you learn, right? And so I think, people, we look at our annoying moments. We wake up in the morning and say, why don't we have this? Why don't we have that? Instead of asking the question of, well, what if we did? What if I did stay married to that person? Would I be happy? No. Would I be a better version of myself? No. Would I have grown as much as I have? No. Would my kids be in a good situation? No. So I think we all we wake up in the morning, and I don't think we always see what we have and realize what we have. And, in my life, as I was talking about, the annoying moment of the week, people thinking, oh, you're a business owner, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, you can. But there's consequences in my life the same as yours. If you do whatever you want, there's consequences to that, right? If you don't work hard, there's consequences to that. If you don't do what you promise, there's consequences to that. There's always consequences to the actions that you take or don't take, the words that you say or don't say. And it's imperative for you to understand in life that who you choose to be, day in and day out, is who you are. And people will tell you that they made a mistake, but a mistake happens once. A pattern happens twice. Who you are as a person is 3 or more times. So if you're dealing with somebody and they're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they're saying, I'm just keep making the same mistake, I'm just making mistakes. Because a mistake kind of takes the pressure off the person who made it. Saying I sinned versus I made a mistake, saying I messed up versus I made a mistake. A mistake sounds like it happened to them. Like they couldn't stop it from happening. Like whatever they did that was not good was somehow not all their fault. But a pattern is twice, and more than that, it's your livelihood. It's who you are, right? It's who you are. And I come to you this morning really with an overall theme of we need to be better people. There was an election this week. I could feel in the air Wednesday morning, just like it felt like soot. It felt like, maybe soot's not the right word. It felt, no, it did. I mean, the air felt heavy. It felt dirty. It felt angry. And that day, I did my work, and then I went to a movie. I just wanted to get away from the drama, from the hate, from people attacking each other, questioning each other, yelling at each other, thinking this person's better than that person. And I look at this stuff and I say to myself, who are we choosing to be daily? Who are we choosing to be? Who are you choosing to be every single day of your life? Who? Because that person is the person that is not a mistake, not a pattern. It's who you are. And seeing this hate in the world this week and people so mad and people so upset. One of my friends really brought it home to me. I was talking to Isaac on the phone, and I said, I can't believe I live in this world. I don't get it. How did this world become this way? And he said, bro, you've been living in this world your whole life. You're just realizing it now. You're realizing it now. You're seeing it for what it is now. And that was eye-opening to me. I was like, how can the world get like this? And he was like, it's been here, Dan. It's just, maybe we see it more now because of social media. Maybe we see it more now because people have less personal responsibility. Maybe we see it more now because the people that are supposed to be our leaders don't lead well and they don't set good examples, so we follow those bad examples, and that leads to people just doing bad things or putting things public or not knowing when to bite their tongue. My annoying moments of the week this week are people being selfish, people not taking the time, and people hating people because they're different. Okay? Hating people because they're different. There is nobody on this planet that should feel discriminated against. But it happens. And Rob Drummond, one of my best friends, Syracuse and CFL and NFL alum, more than anything else, someone I consider a brother, we had a heart-to-heart, and we have a lot of them. We had one this week. About this world, about him being a black man in society. And in 2022, people say you shouldn't have to have these conversations because things shouldn't be like that. And I would say to you, in 1922, and 1822, and 1722, and on, there shouldn't have ever been a conversation of somebody not feeling welcome. You know, my annoying moments of the week, it's just a reflection of society. We have become selfish. We never think we're wrong. And we feel like we have the right to pop off and open our mouth about anybody's life. Go on any social media this morning and a stranger will tell you what they think about your life. Because they feel that they have the right to. And you would say, well, Dan, you gave it to them, right? Whoever put it out there gave it to them. They put it out publicly. Some people are just sharing stuff. Could you imagine sharing a picture of your newborn baby and somebody going, that's the ugliest baby I've ever seen? Oh my God, that mom would probably cry. That dad probably want to kill somebody, right? Well, Dan, they put it out there. No, what they put out there was a celebration. It's a celebration. Let's get to my other annoying moment of the week. People that fake it on social media. Fake it till they make it. Did you ever meet somebody that faked it on social media? Like, you know who they are, and you're a better person because you don't out them, but you know who they are. You know that what they got, what they don't have, and you see what they put up on there. People on social media trying to be somebody else. And that to me is a cry for help. It's a cry for help, right? When someone goes on social media and takes on a different persona, it's not me, it's somebody else. You know what I mean? And it's like, I know who you are. I know how much money you have. I know where you live. You know, that's not you. You don't got it like that, bruh. So, but I mean, anybody can walk up to a dock and take a picture of a yacht and say, look at my new whip. And it's like, it's not your whip. You just happen to be walking by that pier in Rhode Island on a Thursday. You know what I mean? So that's reality. Right? That's reality. Is the truth is the truth, but on social media, who's going to fact check it, right? Now, we all know somebody who knows somebody, so they can fact check it and they can tell you straight up, like, this is where it's at. But, to me, it's a cry for help. To me, it's sad. It's sad if somebody feels like they can't be who they are. If they have to be somebody else in order for you to like them. And that's been the downfall and the pitfall of social media and the accessibility of information, is that people have felt the need to keep up with people to a point where they're not who they are anymore. They're who they are on the internet, but they're not who they are in real life. I was having a conversation yesterday around lunchtime with two gentlemen, Joel and Roy, shout out to them, and we were discussing the metaverse. Right? I said metaverse, Facebook. But, Facebook's like, I'm going to cancel you, Daniel. Yeah. And by the way, realize something on Facebook. If you stand up against Facebook or you speak about certain things a certain way, not swearing, not yelling, not attacking anybody, but if you have an opinion that Facebook doesn't like, watch how they mysteriously find ways to poke at you, punish you, put you in Facebook jail, try and take stuff down. I put up a video this week of my conversation with Michelle Montaigne. Michelle Montaigne is a sports reporter. I am a sports reporter. You guys watched the video. You saw us. I took our conversation from inside of the show and made it its own special, put it onto Facebook, uploaded it, thought nothing of it, got in the car, and was on my way to the movie. I get a message with a yellow line through my name saying that I have been flagged for pornography and nudity. And I looked down at my phone and I said, what could this possibly be? Then I said, okay, Facebook, well, you're allowed to review it. And you're allowed to go up against their community standards. You're allowed to tell Facebook they're wrong. Facebook flagged a video of a man and a woman talking about sports, claiming that it was pornography and against community standards. Now, does that make any sense? No. Why do I think Facebook did it? Well, because I have some opinions that maybe Facebook doesn't have. I also think that Facebook did it because Facebook is reeling. They always seem to try and catch the good guy as the bad guy. But, yeah, I mean, you see all this hate speech on Facebook, all this nasty on Facebook, and they flag me for going against community standards for posting a video of a man and a woman talking about sports, fully clothed. So, I don't know what it was. I don't know how it was. But I, of course, appealed it. And Facebook, within 5 minutes, was like, you know what? We made a mistake. Thanks for showing us we're wrong. And have a great day. And then they flagged something else. There was years ago where Facebook took me off and put me in Facebook jail for a day and a half because I posted a picture of Jim Boeheim coaching with his suit on, leaning forward, staring at the court. They said it went against their community standards. A picture of Jim Boeheim, not Jim Boeheim picking his nose, which would that matter? Not Jim Boeheim pointing at somebody, not Jim Boeheim flipping somebody off, but Jim Boeheim simply looking forward at the court. They said this is offensive material. Really, though? So, you know, you look at this and you say to yourself, there was a time where Facebook was also told that they didn't understand hate speech. So Mark Zuckerberg and his team of wonderful human beings that thought that this was a great thing to do decided to put on every single post, do you believe this is hate speech? So anytime anybody posted anything, you could click yes or no. Well, why doesn't that work, people? Because people have enemies. People have ex-girlfriends and ex-boyfriends. So you could be a business owner and you could have an ex-wife and you could be talking about stuff and posting all your things and here's our special on clothes, here's our apparel, here's 50% off, and she could be saying hate speech, hate speech, hate speech, hate speech, hate speech, and everything that you put up gets knocked down and it affects your business and she takes money from you because she's bitter. People should not be able to dictate what other people, you know what I mean? Because then we could all punish each other. Then all these internet trolls can do more than troll. They can sit at home and just hit buttons. I think that's nudity. I think that's profanity. I think that's offensive. I think that's hate speech. And all in actuality, they're just mad at people for being successful. So Facebook, I know I'm on Facebook right now, and you might be blocking my feed right now. You might be shutting down my audio, saying that in certain countries they can't hear this music, which was hilarious. I have non-copywritten music that I have played for years on my show. Yesterday on Facebook, they're like, we muted a portion of your show because we don't know if this is your music. Well, it's been non-copywritten for a very long time, and I'm on 5 days a week. So it wasn't flagged the other 1,000 times. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, Facebook, and I don't understand how the algorithm works. I don't know if they just attack all of us at different times. I don't know if they attack certain people about certain things. I don't know if they look for certain words. I can probably tell you that Mark Zuckerberg is probably listening right now because I've said his name a bunch of times and the Facebook algorithm is trying to figure out how to mute the video. But it's an annoying moment of the week for me because social media has been a problem in society, but the control of social media and somebody sitting somewhere with an algorithm having the power to stop a business, push a business down, build another business up, shut up somebody on Facebook but let somebody else talk, do it on Twitter, do it on Instagram, is insane. And it's not just me. There's actors and actresses that have talked about the fact one woman was promoting the TV show she was on and she got blocked from Instagram. So another actress promoted her show for her because the woman wasn't allowed to post about her own TV show. That is an annoying moment of the week for me. Because who is Facebook to take me doing nothing and start flagging stuff? well, this is this, and this is this, and this is that. No, this is an interview about college football. That's a picture of Jim Boeheim, and this music isn't copywritten. So, Facebook, with all due respect, in the court of law, which you're not, why are you attacking me? What did I do? Is there something I said, or is there a belief that I have, or is it the fact that I talk about God that has offended you to the point where you're going to use your algorithm to accidentally, coincidentally, mistakenly flag things? Because it sounds a little shady to me, and I thought that free speech was free speech. But what I've learned in America is freedom of speech is only if you agree with the people in power. Depends on what state you're in. Depends on what country you're in. Depends on who you know. Freedom of speech is only freedom of speech if the people that have the ability to click a button and take down your freedom of speech, they have to agree with you. And that's a sad part of society. So yeah, I'm on Facebook Live today, and I'm going to challenge you, Facebook, to be better, to be fair, and to stop doing BS ridiculousness and calling it policing. You're not the cops, you're not the government, and you most certainly don't know a hell of a lot about freedom of speech and kindness, generosity, and freedom of the press. I've seen a lot of hate speech on Facebook. I've seen a lot of evil on social media, and I've never seen any of it get taken down, for the most part. So, in America today, good people suffer and good people are punished. I would like for that to change, because when you're doing nothing wrong, you shouldn't have to be afraid. And in America, you shouldn't have to feel muzzled. We should be, if the only country on the planet, where people don't feel like they should have to shut up and not speak their mind respectfully and with dignity. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. This has been the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. Get yourself out to Carvel DeWitt today. See what happy tastes like. Try the Wake Up Call Sunday and all of your favorites at the place where you get to be a big kid every single day and every month of the year. They are open year-round. It doesn't matter the weather. Carvel DeWitt, here for you in winter, spring, summer, and fall on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. The longest-standing Carvel franchise in this great, wonderful, beautiful country of America. We'll take a step aside for a fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. When we come back, we'll get into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, proudly presented by the wonderful people at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, right after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Café Kubal studios.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Café Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Café Kubal needs. Café Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both.
It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York, as well as on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, New York, in their drive-through location, and you can find them on the corner, or pardon me, on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, as well, in their giant behemoth of a brown-striped building. Can't miss it out in Manlius, so make sure you head out there today. You are watching and listening on Facebook.com, YouTube.com, and MixLR.com, all /Wake Up Call DT, as well as on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage where the MixLR live internet streaming radio feed is embedded. So wherever you are with us, thanks for hanging out with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we just brought you the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Coming up next, Lead, Learn, Evolve, Adlib, and Deliver, proudly presented by the fantastic people at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, led by one of my closest, nearest, and dearest friends, Jimmer Sikowski, a fantastic leader of faith in our community and beyond. Today's topic in Lead, establish your peace. Establish your peace. How do we establish peace, folks? Well, first and foremost, we have to understand the importance of peace. We have to understand the necessity of peace. Peace is something that doesn't just come to you. Peace is something that you have to develop, seek. Because we can go today, right? I can go for a walk today. Hear the quiet breeze, the birds chirping, and say to myself, wow, that was peaceful, right? But how do I establish my peace when the train's going by and the plane's really loud and people are playing music and my next door neighbors are having a barbecue? How then can I establish my peace? Well, it's when you realize, folks, that it has to come from within. Peace is internal. It's internal to external, not external to internal. Because your peace, if it comes from an outside source, that outside source can be disrupted. Well, you know, I'm peaceful when this, and this happens, right? Somebody says that to you. I'm peaceful when these things happen. That's when I'm peaceful. Well, if you need something to happen in order to be peaceful, you're not really peaceful. Because that means you need a set of situations to line up so that you can be at peace. And not everything always lines up, right? I'm peaceful when I'm on a beach. My response to you? Well, how many times a year are you on a beach? How many times a year do you get to go to a beach? Because if you're only peaceful when you're on the beach and you go to the beach 3 days a year, that means for 362 days, you're not peaceful. So talk to me about that. Tell me about that. What brings you peace? If it's external, you're doing it wrong. Well, Dan, when my mom sings to me, it brings me peace. Well, yeah, that's a beautiful thing. But someday your mom may not be here. So we need to work on you being peaceful. I'll give you an example. My grandmother was the definition of peace. My grandmother brought me peace all the time. But I said to myself, my grandmother's not going to live forever. And there's a better chance that I'll be here and she won't be someday because we're 69 years apart. So how am I going to be peaceful when my grandma isn't here? How am I going to establish peace if I can't see my grandma? Right? I think Facebook is already messing with me. Oh, Facebook. You play too much. So, to me, my grandmother brought peace into my life. But I had to learn how to be my own peace. I had to learn how to find it. Because I said to myself, one day Graham may not be here, Dan. And if she's not here, how are you going to stay peaceful? How are you not going to lose it, right? Just sit and cry every day because you miss her. It's because it has to come from within. It has to come from in here and spread out. So how do you establish it is the question today in Lead, right? How do you establish peace? Well, I know that people listen to the show and watch the show that have different religions, different nationalities and backgrounds and histories and beliefs on God and yada, yada, yada. I believe in God. I proudly believe in God. I don't care what Facebook says. I don't care what anybody says. I believe in God. I don't care what Twitter says. I don't care what Instagram says. God, to me, is the most important thing. Will always be the most important thing. And existed way before Facebook and social media. And will exist well after. So, I think a big part of establishing your peace is believing in God. And I think that, and what frustrates me is people say, well, you believe in God because you can't handle life. You believe in God because you need a crutch. You believe in God because life is just too difficult to think that there's not somebody here. And I would disagree with that. I don't believe in God because I'm afraid not to believe in something. I could have believed in anything. But I believe in God because I know that God is real. I know that God is here. I know that there is something. I'm not believing in it because I have to. I'm not believing in it because I need to. I'm not believing in it because I can't exist without it. In the sense of I can't function. I believe in God because why would I not believe in the one being that had the power to give me a chance to be sitting here today? Why would I not believe in something I know to be true? You think all of us smile the same regardless of nationality and where we grew up and what country we're in and what language we speak? You think that it's coincidence we all smile the same, cry the same, show our emotions similarly? We all have babies the same way. It's not like people that are born in Europe have babies differently than people born in America, or people that, speak this language or have this background, have a different way of reproducing this or doing that. There's a reason why we're all the same in a lot of ways. We're similar in how we show love, right? Hugs, kisses, smiles. People in France buy flowers when they're romantic. So do people in America. Why do you think human beings are so much more similar than we are different? You think that that's by divine design or just by total mistake? It's a total mistake that people of different languages can still find ways to understand each other. It's a total mistake that people who come from different backgrounds and different languages can still show each other love and affection. Why do you think dogs have similar things that humans do? They show love in a similar way. Why do you think that this Earth, which is a circular spinning rock in the middle of space, is not falling and is literally in orbit, levitating in the vastness of space? You think that's a mistake? That just happened? Well, Dan, it's the Big Bang. The Big Bang just happened. Well, who made the Big Bang bang? That's my question. Every day I grow up in this society, I feel like less and less people want to believe in God and more people want to believe in technology. Where do you think the technology came from? Where do you think the ideas came from? Who do you think put the people on the planet that created the technology you use? Everything goes back to God. So, how do you establish your peace? First and foremost, by knowing that there is a God that looks out for you. If you put your faith in the world, you will constantly be let down. Constantly. You'll be let down by people that don't mean to let you down. If you put your faith in the world, you will constantly be let down. If you put your faith in God, God is consistent. Well, Dan, how do you know God exists? Because I do. Because I seek my heart above my mind. There's a reason why your heart, if your mind stops and your heart endures, you're still alive. There's a reason why your heartbeat is the thing that you need. Because our minds are treacherous places. Our minds will tell us great things, and our minds will be our worst enemy. Do you ever watch a scary movie and you finally see the alien and you go, wow, that's not bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was. Because our brains always go beyond, right? They think worse than the worst. And maybe they think better of a situation than the situation actually is, right? Your mind is a battlefield sometimes. And there's a reason why your brain is not the thing that keeps your body going. It's your heart. Because your heart knows the truth. And I feel like we spend a lot of time in society these days. I don't even think people are using their brains anymore. I think people are just kind of sheep. But when you watch society, my question to many people that do bad things is, where is your heart? I don't believe anybody's inherently bad as a person. I don't believe anyone's born bad. I don't think anybody's born to be a criminal. I don't think it's in their blood. I think that people are born into circumstances and environments that can definitely affect them. There's some people that don't believe that they deserve anything good in their life. I've met and dated plenty of women that have been very schizophrenic with their relationship with me because they were skittish about anybody treating them with kindness because they didn't think they deserved it. And it was sad to see, but it also becomes very violent and abusive when you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't believe that they deserve to be happy because then they do things in order to lose. You know, they create problems because they don't think they deserve anything good. And when a man or a woman doesn't believe that they deserve happiness, and so they destroy the happiness they have, you know, we look at them and go, they're bad people. They're not bad people. Something got broke along the way, and it's not fixed yet. You know? And so the people, well, Dan, why don't you stay around and fix it? Because abusive behavior is abusive behavior, right? I have tried to help everyone I've come into contact with. If anybody's ever needed help, I've tried to help, and whether or not they ask for it, you try to help where you can. But you can only help so much, and you can only help if you're helping to the point where it's killing you, then there's something to be said about that. And I think boundaries, establishing your peace. So I think to me, you establish your peace first with God. And I think secondly, you establish your peace by seeing who's around you, what you're allowing around you, and what you're allowing in your environment. I think that's a big part of your peace. I know that it is. Because the people that you converse with and spend your time with, those people are the people that are going to be affecting your peace in an either positive or negative way. You know, there's people that you're around where you get nervous, right? You get that lump in your throat. You don't feel like you can trust them. There's certain people, and I know this in my life. There's certain people I walk into the room with, I don't even think. I don't even think about what I'm saying. Not in a bad way. I'm not worried about what I'm saying because I trust that person. And then there's other times where I walk into a room and my stomach kind of twists. And I say to myself, okay, don't talk about this, don't talk about this, don't answer this question. I don't trust them with this. You know, you have to watch that. You have to establish your peace and understand that there's people in your life that if they're disrupting your peace, that is not something to take lightly at all. It is not something to take lightly. Anyone that disrupts your peace should not be given the time in your life unless they're changing for the better, right? And well, what if it's my mom? What if it's my dad? I don't care who it is. I'm not saying be mean to people. I'm saying abuse is abuse. Toxic is toxic. Poison is poison. And it took a long time for me to be okay with saying that. And even now I feel bad about it because I have people in my family that are my blood, that are very close relatives to me, that are toxic, mean, hateful people that constantly don't make you feel good about yourself if you let them. And I was told my whole life that I have to be around these people because they're my family. And then I thought to myself, well, if they give me a heart attack, I thought about it like this. I'm like, if these people stress me out to a point where I have a heart attack and I die, will they come to my funeral? Maybe just to show their face. Will they care if I'm dead? No, they'll eat a sandwich and move on. You got to think about life like this. We spend most of our time disrupting our own peace. I'm going to say that again. We spend most of our time disrupting our own peace. We say it's other people. Social media disrupts my peace. Well, you're the one on it. You know, you can get off of it. You can just not look at it today. Well, you know, talking to Sheila disrupts my peace. Well, why are you talking to Sheila? You know, Bill's always negative. He disrupts my peace. Well, then why are you around Bill for lunch? I had a friend that was constantly negative. Constantly negative, said a lot of things. Just a mean person. Just a mean and angry person. And I had lunch with him every single week. And I found myself depressed, down, angry, upset. I wasn't acting like myself. My stomach hurt. My chest hurt. I didn't feel comfortable. I gained weight. And then I stopped eating with the person, and I was like, to this day, I remember the last day I ate with him. He said something racist. I told him how I felt about it. And that was the end. Because I don't hang around that. and I'll try to educate and I'll try to spread positivity, and he didn't want to take it, but I tried. I'm a different person today than I was a while back. If you're my girlfriend and you're causing me constant stress, I'll talk with you about it and I'll work with you about it. But after a few weeks, I'm not spending months dealing with it. If this is who you are, I don't want to be a part of it. I will talk with family, but if you're in that place, I won't be a part of it. You know, my mom and I are very similar people in the fact that we will help anyone, even when those people just spit on us. We will help them. And my mom has a big heart, and she is there for everybody. And she might not forget the bad things you did to her, but if you need her, she's there. But I look at my mom nowadays, and I'll just look at her and I'll say, Ma, you know, think about the relationship you have with these people and think about how it makes you feel. If it's not building you up, it might be tearing you down. And if it's tearing you down, then what are you doing it for? None of us have to be friends with anybody. None of us have to say that this is our family. You don't have to say that that's your family, right? We need to get in the habit of realizing that you should surround yourself with people that love you. Period. You should spend your time around things that are good, positive, and uplifting. Period. There is not a person on this planet that needs to be in an abusive relationship. Well, Dan, sometimes you're in one you don't know that it is, and it becomes that. I've been there. Well, Dan, some of us don't know how to leave. I've been there. Well, Dan, some of us feel scared and trapped. I have been there. I'm not saying it's easy. But I am saying that we need to stop believing we can't get out. I know in the moment we might feel like we can't get out, but we need to stop believing that we can't get out. There is no person on this planet in an abusive relationship that should remain there for the rest of their lives. Well, Dan, it's easier said than done. Well, you know what? It is easier said than done, but I've done it. I've lived it. I've been in an abusive relationship. I have dealt with somebody who made me afraid. I've dealt with someone who did horrible, terrible things that made me feel like I could literally touch hell. Just like that it was right there in the room. Well, how'd you get out, Dan? I had to put God first. I had to put my health first. And I had to realize that the things I wanted in my life were just because you want to be with someone and just because you want to love them and just because you want to be married and you want to have kids and you want to have this life for yourself doesn't mean you take what's in front of you. What you want in life may not come from the thing that's right in front of you. Some people have to get married 3-4 times. Some people get married once and it's fine. Some people never get married and they have a partnership and that's fine. Some people got to go to 100 different jobs before they find the right one. Some people got to lose money, become homeless to realize it's not worth it. Some people have to leave their home of their abusive parents, live in the streets, and take 10 years before they can make enough money to be like, I made the right decision. They knew they made the right decision, but they suffered making the right decision. It's not easy to make the right decision. It's not easy to establish your peace. And I'm sick and tired of living in a world that just wants to do something because it's easy. Because you don't get anywhere. If you sit on social media all day, chances are you're not advancing yourself. If you're gossiping all day, chances are you're not advancing yourself. If you don't take a minute to pray, or you don't take a minute to take a deep breath, chances are you're not peaceful. And I have to check myself all the time. There's a song that says, I know I got a problem and my problem is I'm peaceful and I believe in the people. And I think, is it by Chance the Rapper? Might be. But My problem is I'm peaceful. Right? People don't like peace when they don't have it. People don't like you kissing your girlfriend in front of them when they don't have one. People don't like you talking about how great your job is when they don't like theirs. Why? Because they're not peaceful. They don't have the inside to establish that. You got to realize something. My job is not why I'm peaceful. Talking to a girl and dating is not why I'd be peaceful. Having a quiet day outside is not why I'm peaceful. I'm peaceful because I believe in God, because I want to be healthy, and because to me, I've lived most of my life in chaos and stress, and it has only caused me pain. I do have a problem, and my problem is I'm peaceful. And I believe in the people. I feel the same way as that rap song. Establishing your peace, to me, means believing in a God, knowing someone called you by name, knowing somebody made you on purpose, knowing that your heart will guide you, using your mind for good and not against you. And I know that this stuff is easier said than done and it takes time, but establishing your peace is realizing that you have to be the one to decide to be peaceful, and you have to be the one that stays calm. Everybody can stay calm on a beach, for the most part. How many people can stay calm in the eye of a tornado? Work on that. Work on finding a way in this crazy world to take a deep breath, thank God for your life, and smile. Why? Because you woke up, which means you have a chance to do something good, to change a life, and to be better. This world has weighed so heavily on my soul. So heavily on my soul. And I have to reestablish my peace by remembering that I am peaceful, I am hopeful, I am joyful, I am faithful, and I believe in the people. And when people fail me despite my belief in them, I believe in the God that woke me up today that said, Daniel Michael Justin Tortora, I have called you by name, and you are mine. Go out, seek justice, do good, and do not apologize for your love for me, my son. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll come back with the top dog of the week. Inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, you were just here with us for Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-lib, and Deliver on today's topic, establishing your peace. We'll be back right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skinny Atlas, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skinny Atlas Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You'll find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius and at their drive-thru on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. With that being said, so happy to be here with you for the Top Dog of the Week. Top Dog of the Week, proudly presented by Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Campground Dog Boarding. And Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, they are the Bobcats, but they've been honored for 2 weeks in a row as our top dogs. And getting into this national tournament for the men's and women's soccer teams, we had Nick Dimitrievski of the men's soccer team head coach, and the women's soccer head coach of Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, Alex Grigorito, join us last week, honored as our top dogs following their selection shows of both being chosen as the second seeds in their respective tournaments for the USCAA national tournament for the right to call themselves national champions. And now here I am honoring the top dogs of the week, the men's soccer team, coming off their victory that they had on penalty kicks, going all the way to the wire, winning 4-3 at the end of this all, as Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse will be moving on to the semifinals of the USCAA national tournament, and they'll be taking on Manor coming up here today on Friday, November 11th. So with that being said, let's bring in the head coach as we honor him and his team as our top dogs of the week. Nick, how you doing today?
Good, thanks, Dan. We're feeling pretty grateful and honored, and we made it through, so we're pretty excited about that opportunity.
Yeah, and to be in this tournament, you know what it's like to be here, and this team perennially is contending. Your Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, a men's soccer team, vying for the opportunity to call yourselves back-to-back-to-back champions nationally this season. And this game, the first game that you had out of the gate in Virginia Beach, definitely gave you everything it could as a test. Just what you can say about Salem and what you took away from the matchup.
Yeah, no, the tournament is very strong. We knew, I did my homework. We knew they were going to be really, really, really difficult, so we prepared them. They're a really quality team. Congratulations to them. But I thought we controlled the game. It's just one of those games you couldn't put it in. We outshot them 12-3 in the first half. Missed some easy ones. They were not real dangerous at any point. It's just when we would foul that they would get those balls lofted in the box that became dangerous late in the second half. And we went up midway through, I think, the second half and in control. And then there was a penalty shot given against us with 3 minutes left to go, which was, a little disappointing. I questioned the call, but you got to play. It is what it is. And that's what I told my guys, that after it was 1-1 going into overtime, I said, let it go. You got to fight. You got to play hard. You got to create opportunities. Overtime, nobody scored, and then it was penalty shots. And we missed one, and they missed, I believe, 3. And we won it. I mean, we were the better team. We just let them get into the game, and it became a difficult game at the end. We just got to take care of our business a little bit sooner. So I think at the end of the day, our experience showed off. I'm proud. The guys played hard. When they needed to. So now that game's done, and we're on to Manor College.
Yeah, and you, like you said, reflecting on this game against Salem, a team that this season went 8-5-5 in USCAA Men's Division I soccer nationally. Like you said, you go up 1-0, and then questionable call, penalty kick ties the game 1-1, and then you have to go into extra period and eventually finish it in the end-all, be-all penalty kicks. To have this as your first game in this tournament and to be pushed all the way to the end with penalty kicks, just what it says about the resiliency of your team and just what it does for you as a coach, knowing that it all comes down to your goalkeeper and what decisions Giovanni Galina is going to make, as well as, the shots that you take on the other side. It's a silent 1v1 type of situation that was on the line for the rights of moving on or heading back home. And I know that penalty kicks, it can be a beautiful thing in the case when you win it, but it can also be extremely nerve-wracking. So just what you can say about going to the wire, and as a coach, how you handle knowing that it's all going to come down to your goalkeeper and taking the right shots.
Yeah, Salem is a NCAA Division II team. So they're a quality team. I mean, we do our homework. We practice our penalty shots, both taking them and then obviously the goalkeepers defending them. We felt pretty confident. We had the list ready. We made 4 out of 5 kicks, which is pretty good. We won the national championship last year on penalty shots. So we were ready for that. We knew what to expect on that. And we had, if it's tied after 5, you got another 5 out there. It's elimination, single elimination. So, it just comes down to experience. You got to be able to handle that moment and put it in instead of freezing up. And I think our guys did a heck of a job. That first kick that those guys had, the kid missed, and they called it back because Gio moved forward a little bit, so he had to retake the kick, and he missed again, and Gio blocked it on the other side. So, I mean, that's some incredible experience from that goalkeeper to be able to do that. We prevailed.
And keeping with your goalkeeper for a second here, hailing from Italy, Giovanni Gallina, just what you can say, not just in this game, but in the time that you've had him at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse, just how you've seen him mature, grow, what it is about his game and the way that he plays between the pipes that you've really just been able to reflect upon and see a maturation process of.
Yeah, no, we've been very blessed at the goalkeeper position. Last year when we won the national championship, Boubacar Sisi was the goalkeeper, and he stopped, I believe, 3 penalty kicks in the penalty kick shootout. Gio, was a steward underneath him for the last couple years. So he had the opportunity this year, and boy, did he step up. But we also have another guy, Andrew Muller, that is on the same level as Gio. We have 2 of the top keepers in the country. So they motivate each other at practice. I'm just so proud. I'm just so happy for Gio. He's a good kid, responsible kid, does the right thing, and things worked out for him. God was good, and I'm just happy for him and happy that we got past this one and now focus on our efforts on the next game.
And looking at the next game here with Nick Dimitrievski, honoring him and his team, the Bryant Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse men's soccer team, as our top dogs of the week. And as we look ahead to the semifinal game in the USCAA National Tournament for the rights at going after a national championship here over the weekend, looking at the game today, Friday, November 11th, that we'll be playing a little bit later on, going up against Manor, like you said, we faced Salem. We saw what we saw from then, took what we took, got the penalty kicks, were able to get the victory 4-3 on penalty kicks. Now that you look to Manor, they're a team this season that ended up 10-3-1. We're in the top 4 when it came to the overall standings. Your thoughts on Manor and just what you can say about what you know about them overall, and like you said, in doing your research and reflection, what type of team this is that you're going up against?
Yeah, no, they're a strong team. They have the advantage that that's going to be their first game tomorrow. So we just played 120 minutes, so our guys are beat. We just came from the banquet. We had 4 first-team All-Americans and National Player of the Year, Sean Altidore. Manor is a real strong team. We've got to be ready. Well, one thing that we do that no other team does, we play this funky 4-4-2 diamond system that outnumbers the opponent at each spot of the field. And it's really hard if you've never played us to play that. It's just, it's really fast. You're outnumbered. And I think that's what we rely on a lot with our athleticism and our ability with that diamond system. So I think we will be in a great position to win that game tomorrow just because of the diamond and our matchups. We match up really, really well against them. And I'm excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, and like you said, being at the banquet and Sean Altidore, his honor, we spoke with him going into the season when we had our roundtable Bobcat Buzz on campus at Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse. Got to know Sean a little bit there. Just what you could say about what he's done from the beginning of the season to right now and what he's meant to this team and why you feel like he has earned the honor that he received nationally.
Yeah, he's got good numbers. He's a strong leader, and he's a big guy up top that scores. I think he's got 15 goals and like 6 assists maybe. But he's been Mr. Reliable. He played part of that goal. The goal that we scored today, he had the shot that ricocheted off the post and came back to Zeno, and Zeno put it in. So when he's on, he's a handful. He's a big boy up top with pace and ability. So we're going to count on him. We're going to count on all of our team. But, they play a system, and when the system is on, it's really, really difficult to stop.
You've been tested this season. You've had the opportunity to play a bunch of different games at home and on the road to see what this team is like. And I know during this season you had certain student athletes that weren't available yet. So as you got this team together and went through these different pieces, had a rematch of the national championship from last year against University of Maine Fort Kent at home in Syracuse, just what you can take away from how this team has been battle tested, the adversity that they've faced, what you've faced, knowing that some players were going to be available for certain games, some weren't going to be, just how all of this kind of comes together and reflects where the team is at right now, and how you define where the team is at right now.
Yeah, no, it's we had a lot of guys come in late. We got a brand new team. We got some really experienced veterans that came return, but we got some big time new freshmen that were here, but they're freshmen. Yeah. Several of our starters are true freshmen, and it's tough. So it took us a while to gel and get everybody to understand how we play. Nobody plays this type of system that we play, and to get the kids to understand it, because most teams play this 4-3-3. And this is really foreign to them. And it takes a lot of athleticism, a lot of work. And a lot of the kids are just not prepared for that. So it took us a while for them to truly understand the system, get in better shape. We had a lot of kids come in late. So our shape caught up to us. The kids understood more. We've been flying this last month. We were playing good soccer. And like I said today, I thought a culmination. I thought we played good. If you're out shooting a team 12-3, you're doing something. We're unlucky on some occasions. But I think tomorrow we should have a really good showing.
That coming from Nick Dimitrievski, head coach of the Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse men's soccer team as they get set for the semifinals. That game is going to be going on today, Friday, November 11th at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and it'll be down in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the semifinal round for this USCAA national tournament. Nick, as always, I thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Definitely know that the way you started this thing off, to make sure your heart beats there, I guess, get a little heart stopper to start off the tournament, but, a reflection of this team's response to the storm and weathering those storms and whatnot. So congratulations to you again. Congratulations to the team, and I'm very much looking forward to this afternoon and the hopes of an opportunity to go back to the national championship game.
Great. Thank you for support. Hopefully we can bring it back. I appreciate the time. Thank you. Go Bobcats.
Cafe Cabal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafecabal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Cabal needs. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus, where you will find handcrafted all-natural soy wax candles over 60 cents to freshen up your home. We carry a wide range of locally made items, Salsa Q's, Syracuse Salt, and Chocolate Pizza Company, to name a few. Let our knowledgeable staff help choose unique gifts and keepsakes for any occasion. Gifts for family and friends, and maybe a little something for yourself. Witty Wicks Candles and Gift Shop, Township 5 Camillus.
This is a special message from Merritt Brady, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York.
Chick-fil-A for me has always been about the people. I think it starts with the strength and leadership of the Cathy family. It's just amazing to see a family-run business reach the altitude that they have. Second mile service is something that we embodied at my previous business, and the ability to make people feel like they're the only person at your establishment, that you are there to serve them that day and looking for those extra ways to make them happy, to anticipate what they need next is what makes me tick. And I'm going to have so many opportunities at Chick-fil-A to do that. It's one of my favorite things to eat in the world. My favorite application question or interview question when I'm interviewing is when I get to, have you ever eaten at Chick-fil-A? And a smile hits both their ears. You know, they can't even answer the question for a second. And when I see that, it's like, man, that's going to be a great hire. They already get it. They already feel it. They already know that we're different. The Chick-fil-A experience, it's a real thing. And then, of course, just our generosity and community involvement and making a positive impact in the lives of our team members, our guests, and the community in general, I think is really the secret sauce.
Chick-fil-A Watertown on 1290 Arsenal Street in Watertown, New York. Coming to you, fall 2022. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Cafe Kubal on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse, New York, in their drive-thru. Here with me, picture in picture, is no stranger to the broadcast. We've known each other since before there was a name and a logo to this conference. The American Athletic Conference Commissioner, Mike Aresco, arm in arm back in the day in Newport, Rhode Island. They're down in Irving, Texas now. A little bit warmer, maybe a little less lobster. We'll talk with him about it. Mike, how you doing today?
How are you, Dan? It is warm. It's in the 80s again. This is not New England fall weather. Let's put it that way. But yeah, we moved here, as you know, a few years ago. It made more sense. We're nearer to our schools. Yeah. But you alluded to the Lobster Fest that we used to have in Newport, and we have done away with that, unfortunately. You know, that's not our region anymore. And it was also a very expensive undertaking, I must say. And with COVID, of course, we couldn't do it for several years anyway. So after that, we decided that we'd probably want to. We've been doing some of those meetings virtually, or some of our media days, as you know, and we're going to start doing them in person again, but probably in our area here. But always great to be with you. And, you know, you're right. We get hard to believe. I was Big East commissioner for a year. And then when Catholic schools left, everything fell apart. We got raided by the Big Ten and by others. there was no choice but to try to rebuild. And it was controversial giving up the Big East name because it had built up a lot of equity over 40 years, whatever it was. And that was no small thing. On the other hand, we had to make some trade-offs, and we needed, there was a lot of revenue at stake, and we needed that because we weren't going to get the kind of TV deal that we wanted. And it helped our schools at least do what they needed to do to try to pay coaches a little more, to try to, do some things to, better themselves. And so consequently, the name has helped them a lot, but it was much more a basketball brand than it was a football brand. And as you know, we came up with Americans. I think it's been a durable name and a good logo. And, the conference has succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. We've been the victim of our own success, losing the 3 teams because they've been so successful and our league's been so successful. So that's the way the chips fall, Dan.
Yeah, it's been an interesting road, and I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. July 20th of 2012. And so to now. And so, I know that with my 10-year coming up, the 10-year for the American on its way as well, because I said, and I'll never forget this, and I was speaking with somebody else in the media here a little bit earlier this week. When I said this, I said, I'll never forget the day that I met Mike Aresco, and we were talking to each other, introduced myself, and we were in Newport, Rhode Island, arm in arm. I said, I put my arm around him, and I said, from one red-headed stepchild to the next, we're going to build this thing together. So seeing that now, 10 years for my company, 10 years coming up here for the American, just what that means to you to look back on a decade and to know that you were building something in that moment, and me as well. And I just find it to be an incredible parallel when you get to professionally and personally get to see someone that you care about and something that you care about kind of just be right there with you through the whole step of the way. When I have an anniversary, so does the American, so to speak.
Well, first of all, we appreciated your interest in the league because not everyone had the same interest in us or thought we would be nationally relevant. And I think you gave us a shot early on. We had a few writers that did, but not everyone. So we kind of grew up together, and we're very pleased with, you and I have been friends now, and you've covered us for years. You're knowledgeable, you know our league. And so it's been a nice parallel thing. Now, when it comes to our league, Dan, it's right now it's a little bittersweet. We're losing some important schools, but on the other hand, I view this as just the evolution of college sports. Unfortunately, you have to accept it, and you can't take it personally at all. I'm very pleased with what they've done in the league. If I were them, I'd probably be doing the same thing. They stand now to earn, $40 to $50 million annually. They go into a league that is a so-called P5 league. We've worked hard to be a P6 league, which I think we earned. It's unfortunately we have bureaucratic hurdles, and we were probably, I think, ready to finally overcome them. And then all of a sudden, the Texas-Oklahoma earthquake hit, and we lost 3 teams. But I'm very proud of what this league has done for 10 years. I mean, there's no question that the decade has been spectacular. Going to 7 out of 9 New Year's Day games, 7 out of them. Think about that. And we're competing with 65 other schools. And, we had, one year we had an automatic UCS appearance, but we would have won it anyway because we had an 11-1 UCF team that, by the way, beat Baylor when they were, I think, number 5 in the country in the Fiesta Bowl. Our very first year, Dan, we won the Fiesta Bowl. We won the national championship in basketball with UConn, the women's national championship with UConn. We had, some success in other sports. Think about that. And people called us a mid-major. Some do, most don't, but that's ridiculous. Mid-majors don't do that, And then not only that, in no time, a few years later, Houston beats Florida State in the Peach Bowl. UCF beats Auburn in the Peach Bowl. We have, we're appearing in the Fiesta Bowl. And we play competitively in all those games, and then finally, to cap it off, Cincinnati makes the playoff in our league. They did it in our league, and it's just almost something that most people said couldn't happen. The G5 just wasn't ever going to get a team. So I'm immensely proud of it. And the fact is, I tip my cap to the 3 that are leaving. They did a great job investing. They did a great job in the conference. But on the other hand, they're not irreplaceable brands, and that's not to knock them. But they're not Texas and Oklahoma or USC, UCLA. And we're bringing in UTSA and UAB and FAU and some really good schools. North Texas invests heavily. Rice is coming on. You see them putting out a pretty good product on the field. So we're going to be fine. But it's definitely bittersweet to do that. We just didn't have the revenue to keep them, and we didn't have, ultimately the cachet of that so-called P5, which I don't think even should exist anymore. It's P2 and everybody else, as far as I'm concerned right now.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios here this morning with you all, and appreciate you being here on a Friday as we get to celebrate the weekend coming up. But yeah, I mean, this you said P2 and everybody else. I prognosticated it probably the beginning of the pandemic. Well, I've been talking about autonomy for a while, because autonomy by definition means self-governing. And then ACC Commissioner John Swofford and I had multiple conversations where I sat down with him and said, okay, so you, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Big 12, and the SEC, you're all autonomous conferences when it comes down to the legislative term, not the media term of Power 5. And I said, what that means is self-governing. You have a separate set of rules. You have different things you could do in full cost of attendance and these different pieces that were implemented in recruiting and whatnot. Is there ever going to be a time where you could walk away because on paper, legally, you're self-governing? And so John Swofford told me on multiple occasions, it's not out of the realm of possibility, not right now, but it's not as if they hadn't talked about it. Fast forward to Oklahoma, Texas, years later after I talked with John Swofford about this, and I say, okay, the SEC can arguably leave right now with Greg Sankey and the crew, and they would have 16 teams, almost 20 if they don't try to take a few more to get to 20, form their own league and call it a day. The Big Ten, in response to that, takes USC and UCLA out of the Pac-12 and looks to maybe join the SEC in this Power 2. Mike, from talking about the autonomy group in the beginning to saying 5 years ago, 5 to 10 years from now, the NCAA won't exist, and if it does, it's not going to look the same. All of these predictions that I've kind of put forward in the last 5 years, they're starting to come to life. I don't know if I'm happy about the fact that there's all this disbanding, but I saw the writing on the wall. How do you feel about the fact that the NCAA is changing? They're figuring out their identity. The college football playoff is looking to expand, but it also has an end date on what it had been doing. Notre Dame has been trying to figure things out. The Big Ten, the SEC have expanded. The Big 12 had to get creative, and they did that with the American. You had to get creative with Conference USA. Once again, the Sun Belt is expanding. I feel like we're living in a world where Division I football, FBS, is not going to be just one group of conferences. I get a feeling there's going to be layers to this thing, and I know I threw a lot at you right now, but I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, Dan, first of all, what we're fighting for is actually the idea that there are 10 FBS conferences and they should all be treated equally. They're not all equal. We know that. We know that everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, and we know that all FBS conferences are not created equal. On the other hand, equality is an important concept. Treat them the same. By the way, the CFP has now done that, and that's really important. It's 6-6. It's 6 conferences. It doesn't say 5+1. It doesn't say that the G5 are separate. In fact, we're hoping that the G5 name goes away. A very important initiative for us is to get rid of the so-called P5, G5, and just FBS. Now, the media is going to continue to use P5. They're doing it. And they'll say, well, Big 12 just got $380 million. You guys are far less, even though we have a nice TV deal relative to the other G4. But they'll say, and they'll still refer to us that way. Now, we think officially, though, we may be able to get rid of that later. In the new CFP revenue distribution, we just want it to be calibrated by FBS conferences. We think we're in the middle somewhere. We think we always were, right? The second thing is, you kind of alluded to it, FBS breakaway, or at one time it was the so-called P5 breakaway. That's not happening. The P5 recognize they don't want to do that, and they don't want to get into any of the antitrust issues. They don't want to get into any of that. And yes, now they view themselves differently. They have this autonomy. Dan, I'm not really sure what autonomy is going to mean once the transformation committee of the NCAA finishes its work, because it's allowing people to do things that, the autonomy fellows needed that privileged status to do. You're not going to need that anymore. So therefore, I'm not even sure autonomy means anything. They'll like it because it gives them a certain cachet, and that's important, certain branding. Branding is critical. I fully appreciate branding because it's hurt us, this notion that we're in the G5. Sometimes, the media just talks about the P5, top coaches in the P5, top teams in the P5. And it irritates me no end because it's all FBS, and we've been as good as several of those P5 conferences over the years. We have a winning record against the Pac-12. We've done a lot of great things, as you know. We've easily been a P6. We should have been a P6. We probably were on the cusp, these three teams, and that's just the way it is. There's a pecking order in college sports, and you mentioned the changes in college sports and alluded to the realignment. It's almost becoming Darwinian. It's predatory. I mean, you just look at it. Yeah. We crossed a Rubicon in a way with UCLA and USF going to UCF. USC. I guess your own team on your mind. Going to the Big Ten. Now, it's a great thing for the Big Ten, and I'm not going to criticize it because that's where we're going these days. But no one ever dreamed that would happen. The Pac-12 had been around for 100 years, whatever. Those schools were firmly entrenched in the Pac-12. Oklahoma, Texas, you could see that a little more because, culturally they're very similar in the way they emphasize football. They're in contiguous states. They look a lot like SEC schools in the way they approach football and everything. Okay, I get that. But the ACC gobbled up the Big East. It was happening before. It just didn't get the same attention that it gets now. Yeah. So there's been this issue of, people going after other schools because, one, the TV money became huge and it all became dependent on football. Those who saw that, and I commend Commissioner Swafford. I mean, look, it hurt our league. It all happened pretty much before I got to the Big East. But he understood that football was going to drive this. There wasn't going to be basketball. I mean, basketball can help, but it's not going to drive it. Yeah. And so you've seen realignment now change college sports forever in a way. The consolidation is real. I don't know how much more will occur. Like junior high school, teams want to be part of the cool kids club, so it's not even a question of money. For some, money drives a lot of it, of course, but it's even more than that. Prestige, it's, the playoff expanding to 12 teams, Dan, allows all those teams in those two major leagues, the Big Ten and the SEC, those dominant leagues with all the big brand names. It allows them now to be in the playoff, even if they don't win that league, or even if maybe they could finish third and still make the playoff potentially because you have 6 at-larges. So that alone, I think, aids in the consolidation. I think if you have that kind of consolidation and you keep a playoff, Dan, at 4 teams, think about that. Yeah. Teams are going to get pretty annoyed year after year if they have a really good record.
Yeah.
So now that's changed. And, the money, everybody compares the money. I think what you have to do as a commissioner in this environment is manage expectations. There's no way we're going to be the SEC or the Big Ten. We may not even be the ACC, but we can compete with them, And the point is, if you're the Pac-12 or the Big 12, you're not going to get the kind of money the Big Ten got. But it doesn't matter because you still have plenty of money to work with. And even when we had almost no money, Dan, you saw our evolution. You were there. You saw it. We talked about it all those years. We did it with almost no money because our guys were smart. They hired good coaches. They recruited well. The rules are affecting us now. I don't know where NIL's going. I don't know where the transfer portal's going. I do know that the transfer portal combined with the year in residency disappearing has been the biggest fundamental change. Forget about NIL. It's the year in residency that has changed everything. Because if you can just leave that quickly and you can get that NIL enticement and you don't have to stay, you don't have to worry about stability, anything, then it's going to change everything. So anyway, that I hope that it gives you an overview. There's so many issues here, that we are wrestling with, pay to play down the road, that overlap and overhang everything we're doing. But for us on a micro level, we're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop now. things often play out over a couple of years. And I don't know at this point whether there is or not. But I also know that I do think FBS, for example, will have more self-government, but I don't think will necessarily try to take over the NCAA or become the NCAA, because the NCAA has a great brand when it comes to the tournament and the things they manage, right? They don't have such a great brand in everything else. Yeah. But the point is, if they stay and there's an enforcement arm, I don't think we want to get involved in enforcement at the FBS level. We can still, the biggest concern about that was the fact that we often have committees that have a lot of individuals on them that aren't from our FBS world and don't really have an understanding of what we're dealing with or make decisions that are contrary to what we would do. I think we would like to have more self-governance in that regard. Now, we have a lot of it already. The money is all in the CFP. We make our own decisions. We don't have to worry about the NCAA telling us what to do when it comes to that. So a lot of that's already happened. It's just a question of how far is it going to go.
Yeah, and I think with all of these changes that have gone on and all of this realignment and NIL and pay for play and not having to have a year in residency and you could transfer right away in that one-time transfer, all these different things that you just brought up, Mike, how do you feel like there is a central voice, a central body of reason as the transformational committee tries to figure itself out over time? And we know NCAA President Mark Emmert says, hey, I'm stepping down. And before that happens, right at the beginning of COVID, he comes out and says, I have no control over college football. I can't tell a conference when to play or if they're going to play. I can't tell a school if they should play or not. So then people start saying, okay, well, then can you suspend a coach? Can you suspend a student athlete? If you have no control over the conference and the institution, then you have no control over the players and coaches within that conference and institution. So do you feel we're getting to a place where you as a commissioner feel like there is a central bodied voice that everyone can go to, a voice of reason, or are we still lacking a nucleus to collegiate athletics, college football?
Well, it's a good point, and you raise a larger point, and that is not only college football, but just generally college athletics and what's happening. The NCAA has, as you know, taken a hands-off approach to a lot of things recently, in part because of that Supreme Court decision. So we've got some fundamental things to deal with. One, does the NCAA assume its former role in any way? There's going to be a new NCAA president. We don't know, how the transformation committee is going to come out in terms of what they're going to recommend, but they probably are going to recommend more autonomy for individual conferences, more ability to do certain things. And I think in the end, we are going to need some kind of national approach to these problems. The way I view it, I boil it down to NIL, pay to play, the transfer portal, health and safety and enforcement. Now, let's separate out enforcement for the time being, because that's where the NCAA can, like you say, can they suspend somebody? Well, they can tell a program, right, that they have a bowl ban or they have this and that. They don't typically do that anymore, or a basketball ban, but they still have enforcement power, right? Okay, but in terms of NIL, pay to play, maybe coming down the road, we are going to need, in my view, a collective approach nationally. And we have to come up with it. We can't let Congress come up with it because they're not going to, and if we come up with it and it avoids unionization, it avoids employee status, which we don't want. But we have a group that collectively bargains nationally for if this is where we're going, if it's clear that it's going to be pay to play. I mean, who knows what California is going to do in their next legislative session, right? They started this whole thing. And then I think you go to Congress, and I don't know what the new Congress is going to look like, but the point is you go to Congress and say, we need an antitrust exemption for what we're doing. It's reasonable what we're doing. It's pro-competitive. It helps everyone. It creates uniformity. It takes us out of the realm of this complete, dysfunction and disorganization. Give us the protection we need to do it. Now, that's something I think they would consider because they don't have to necessarily come up with it. And the other thing, too, Dan, in terms of this, is right now we have, a fragmented system, obviously. But unless you want the rich to get richer and so rich that they dominate everything, which isn't good for anybody. And that's why the playoff is so important to have 12 teams. and to have 6-6, because that's probably the only way with the way the SEC and the Big Ten are now structured and the money they are going to have. That's about the only way you stay relevant, right? Long term. If you keep making the playoff, your league will remain relevant, and even if you don't have as much money as the others, you'll be okay. But in terms of collectively bargaining something, it just seems to me that if we bankrupt 75% of our programs, not going to be good for anybody. If 75% of our programs were suddenly irrelevant because the playoffs stayed at 4 teams and SEC and Big Ten had all the brands, that's not good for anyone either. It's not a healthy environment. So consequently, I think we need to try to figure out a way to do it on a national basis if it comes to that. And I was never a proponent of pay to play. Maybe I'm archaic. I really believe that college sports had a certain, forget about the term purity, but it had a certain way of doing things that I thought was good. I'm not really sure that, because NIL is not NIL. It's morphed into something completely different.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's good for the kids either, who are, worried about whether they got a $500,000 deal and they don't necessarily really deserve it. They have no name recognition, right? It's all recruiting and NIL, the nickname now is now it's legal. That's the acronym, it's not what it was intended to be. It's one thing if Trevor Lawrence could do a national deal because of his name recognition, or Bryce Young. How many guys have that? Very few. But maybe locally somebody could do card shows, or could do, autograph things, or could do camps, or could get a local dealership to, be the face of a local dealer. That's fine. That's what NIL was supposed to do, free you to do the kinds of things students could do. But not, it morphed quickly into the collectives and into, recruiting, retention, basically paying to get players. Now, you could argue maybe some of that stuff was done under the table over the years, and it's one of the unfortunate things that we can't ever prove it, but, we tried to get rid of it. But now it's all basically right there. And sure, there are some guidelines, some, as they say, guideposts, but very few. And you can get around those very easily. So I think any reinforcement of this lacks teeth. The other thing I will say, Dan, and then I know you have other questions. NIL, unless we can devise a fair market value system, and there are companies that determine fair market value, national companies that do that, and get Congress to give us the protection we need, because right now we're getting sued all the time, and it's ridiculous. It's going to bankrupt us. It's too easy to sue us. It's too easy to say, well, you didn't do this for 10 years, therefore you should pay. Or, well, everybody doesn't do something for a period of time. Everything evolves, right? The country didn't do certain things that it should have done, right? Governments don't do, everybody, you can't keep going back and hitting the NCAA and saying, well, you should have been doing cost of attendance years ago and therefore you weren't. Well, everything evolved, everything developed. We're in a better place now than we were. But these lawsuits are starting to really, really pile up. And I just think in the end, unless we get some protection, if we're doing something that's pro-competitive, that makes perfect sense, because antitrust law isn't supposed to outlaw things that are reasonable. If we can get that protection, but you can't just go to Congress and say, you handle our problems. You become the, that's a losing proposition. One, it's not going to happen. Two, if it did, you wouldn't like it anyway, right? So anyway, that's where I'm coming from on this.
Yeah, and I think, speaking here with American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios this morning, we have the opportunity to really look at this and realize that there were so many problems. And I said this, it was in the middle of a pandemic. You're coming up with these massive changes in collegiate athletics and what amateurism is, if there even is amateurism anymore. And when these things were happening, it was funny because I heard a few months back, I was listening to a channel on Sirius XM, and they said, I was traveling between New York and Pennsylvania, and they said that if anybody knew how bad it was going to be with NIL and the transfer portal and all this, like, could you really raise your hand? And while I was driving in the car, I was like, you can go back and check the tape. You can go back 2 years on Wake Up Call, and I said, here are all the things, and then I came on and said, here are more things, and kept making, and my list got bigger. My questions were larger, and I always get very concerned, and as a business owner, as a CEO, as somebody
who is chasing after my dreams every single day, I find it incredibly important, Mike, to be in a place where you should not have more questions than answers. If I'm running a business and I have more questions than answers, then I need to seek those answers before I start adding more questions. And I think all that we've seen in the NCAA in the last couple of years is questions on top of questions on top of questions, not a lot of answers. And if the answers are there, they're vague. And vague answers might as well not even exist at times because they're kind of like ghosts in the middle of a cemetery. It's like, okay, at what point are these even answers to our questions? Because we're not really getting anywhere with them. So you do mention the expansion of the college football playoff. That's one of the things that I think has been a huge positive in the last couple of years and change. A 12-team model and the 6 highest ranked conference champions, 6 at-large teams. The College Football Playoff Committee is still going to be doing their rankings as is. So when it comes to the 6 highest ranking conference champions, they'll look at those pieces of it, and then 6 at-large teams from there. That gives us a 12-team model, and it's supposed to happen in 2026. Could happen as early as 2024 or 2025. They were down in Irving. I mean, and for you, this was, a walk down the street type of thing, but the 10 FBS commissioners, including yourself, and Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick were there in Irving, Texas, here to start off right before the fall, at the end of the summer going into the fall. So what this experience has been like, and this move toward the 12, 6 highest ranked conference champions. That we would think most people are thinking that's going to include the quote unquote Power 5, the autonomy group, plus that other school other conference. Now, the Sun Belt has worked to build itself up. You've worked to build yourself up. What are your thoughts on that? It's not a declared given. They say the 6th highest ranked conferences, but, very few people think the SEC, the Big Ten are not going to obviously be in that top 6 ranking wise. And then probably the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac-12, there's a lot of thought that they're going to be within that. So it looks like a American versus the Sun Belt from year to year. How do you view that? What are your thoughts on it? And is there a safety net for the American Athletic Conference, or do you feel like it's kind of you and the Sun Belt to represent that 6th spot that is being opened up by the expansion of the playoff?
Well, I think you're right, Dan, that the P5, so-called P5, are likely to have 5 of those 6 slots. I mean, there was a year during COVID when the Pac-12 wouldn't have, but that's probably a very unusual circumstance. But the bigger issue for us, and it's really important, is it gets rid of that whole G5 label when it comes to the official playoff. Yeah. The official playoff involves 10 FBS teams, the top 6, regardless. There could be a year when the Pac-12 champion has 3 or 4 losses, or the Big 12 champion has 3 or 4 losses, or the ACC champion has 3 or 4 losses. And, we are the Sun Belt. Let's not forget the Mountain West. Let's not forget the others. Still think we're by far the strongest conference, and we have been. But, we'll have to keep fighting to maintain that, especially we're losing some schools. But, as you know, we've dominated the decade, and we've been right there with the other 5. And the point is, we're going to be fighting in all likelihood for that 6th spot. And I don't think there's probably much doubt about it. But think about it. You can now tell recruits, you can now tell your team, when you start spring practice, when you start summer practice, you've got a shot at the playoff, a legitimate shot. You might have a far better shot at the playoff than the bottom 2/3 of every P5 conference. Think about it. How many of those guys have ever had a shot at the playoff? We now have that shot. Now, there are also 6 at-larges, and that helps us all, because I'm not sure we're going to necessarily get those, because strength of schedule is a factor, and we're working on that, though. And I think, again, I want a fair shot from the committee. I don't think we've gotten that over the years. We got Cincinnati, but the year before, Cincinnati had a good claim. UCF had a good claim. We had some great teams. And I don't know how they would have been viewed in terms of, the at-larges if they hadn't been the champions. But the point is, we now have a legitimate shot, and so do these other conferences. And that's really, I think, the most critical thing. But get rid of that label. the labeling has been the biggest problem we've suffered from. The branding is critical. And yes, I think we put out a great product on the field. We still struggle a little bit sometimes with attendance, although we've improved dramatically. Our stadiums, we've had a lot of renovation and new stadiums. We've done a lot of things that we needed to do because this conference didn't have the kind of makeshift state universities that some of the other conferences have. But it's a very good conference. It's a strong conference, and now there's hope. Before it was tough. I mean, look, I always said we had a shot at the playoff, but I knew that it was going to be a long shot. And give Cincinnati all the credit in the world. But let's face it, if you hadn't had a bunch of 2-loss P5 champions and you didn't have a 1-inch play on the last play with Oklahoma State, I don't know whether Oklahoma State with 1 loss would have gotten ahead of Cincinnati. I would hope not, but it might have happened. So a lot had to happen. Cincinnati had to have a schedule that was conducive. They had to have that road game with Notre Dame. They had to have a game with Indiana. A lot of things had to go undefeated. Think about how hard that is. Think about how many teams go undefeated every year. Very few. How many times has Alabama gone through a season as good as they've been, as dominant as they've been, undefeated? Think about that. So our conference is good. It's a good conference. Any coach that's ever coached in our conference talks about how tough it is. It's a good conference. It's a solid conference. Look, Tulane just went over and beat Kansas State earlier in the year, gave up 10 points, right? So think about what that means. So now you have a shot every year to be in that play. We may not be, right? And some years there may be 2 conferences from our so-called group, which I hope goes away. There may be 2 FBS conferences that aren't the guys that make all the money. Well, actually, like one year it would have been us and Coastal Carolina over the Pac-12, right? And maybe there's a year, as I mentioned, that somebody else falls out. Not necessarily likely, especially with the committee and the strength of schedule business, but at least you have hope. And hope is absolutely incredible. And by the way, that hope means that your alumni are going to still care, that your fans are going to care, that your donors are going to be engaged. Like for instance, if we decided we were just going to do a playoff among ourselves, remember how that's been recommended to us? You have your own G5 playoff. That would destroy us. Everybody would say you're second rate. You're not, they sometimes say that anyway, and it's untrue. It's absolutely untrue. But the point is that would just be, legitimizing that notion, because you'd be saying you're playing at a different level and you don't have access to the big championship. That would destroy our programs. The donors would say, we don't need this. Why don't we just drop to Division 2 or 3 and save a lot of money and just not even bother with this? No, we need to play at the highest level, and we need to give our student athletes, if we're going to be the kind of schools who play at that level, we're going to give our student athletes that opportunity. We've fought for 10 years. And by the way, I think what this conference did, and I don't think anybody can dispute it, had a lot to do with this 6-6 model. There is no question that the American knocking on the door year after year, having these great teams that we had, the UCF 25-game winning streak, the 2 years that they were right there, Cincinnati for 2 years right there, Houston was there back in Tom Herman's day.
Yeah.
If it weren't for that, Dan, I'm not sure. I really don't believe you'd necessarily have 6-6. You might well have 5-1, and everybody would have said that's fine, not an issue. So I'm proud of what the conference did, and I think it's created an opportunity. Just as 10 years ago, Dan, I had to fight hard in that room to get the automatic bid for the so-called G5 conferences on New Year's Day. I hated the idea that the Big East was being pushed out of the so-called BCS group, and now it became the P5 instead of the P6. I hated that, but there wasn't much we could do about it at the time because we were in such disarray. And so consequently, you had to salvage something. And having the automatic meant that you didn't have to be ranked at a certain level, because some of our teams weren't, even though they were good enough to be ranked that high. And consequently, we've been able now to make that mark on New Year's Day year after year. We have not had a game that wasn't competitive. And by the way, our playoff game against Alabama, final score 27-6, but it was 17-6 late in the game, and then obviously there were some late scores. We had 3 drives inside the 10. We played more competitively than a lot of those teams have. How many times have you seen those scores be 49-0 at the half or 28-0 before you even sat down, right? That didn't happen to Cincinnati, and Nick Saban acknowledged it. I thought it was great of him to do that. The point is, we now have a situation where, we get rid of some labels. We're trying to develop some different branding. It's going to be tough road. It's not going to be automatic. Hope we can do it.
We look at if it were to happen today, right? If we had the six highest ranked conference champ, and let's just say the conference. Let's say the teams that are ranked the highest, for argument's sake, right now. Let's say these are the teams that win their conference championship. If we were looking at it right now, that would mean if we were under the new college football playoff model, Georgia would represent the SEC, Ohio State the Big Ten, TCU the Big 12, Oregon the Pac-12, Clemson the ACC, and Tulane the American. If we're looking at the ranking right now, there is no other conference, Sun Belt and whatnot, not ranked higher than Tulane. So if that's how things were taken, we looked at our conference champions of the six highest ranked conferences, then that's what it would look like. Just for argument's sake to take a look at that, that would also mean that arguably the SEC would get in of those six at large, 3 or 4, and then we would maybe see, another team from the Big Ten. What are your thoughts on that? If we just kind of play the hypothetical game today and say Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Oregon, Clemson, Tulane, and in a year like this year, then maybe we would also be saying, if this was the college football playoff expansion, Tennessee, LSU, and then maybe we're talking Alabama as well, Michigan, so that's 4. And then if they took Oregon, or I'm sorry, I already had Oregon, so if they took USC, and then let's put Ole Miss in there. So then we would have 1, 2, 3, 4 more teams from the SEC, and then Michigan and USC, the future of the Big Ten, USC. So we would look at the at-large, those 6 at-large teams just coming from the Power 2, so to speak.
Well, it could easily happen that way, Dan, because, again, all the old and famous brands are almost entirely consolidated in those 2 conferences now. You could argue that Clemson, Florida State, and Miami, because of their history, would be in that category. And other than that, maybe Oregon, maybe Washington, but they're not quite in that category. Those are the brands that are going to spend the most money. They're going to recruit the players. They're not always going to be the most successful. But if I had to guess, I would say that those 6 at-larges are going to be heavily populated with SEC and possibly Big Ten teams, especially with Lincoln Riley at USC and as good as they are now, and with UCLA coming on, obviously there's some strength there. On the other hand, it gives everyone a chance. There's still some teams from our league. There's some teams from the Big 12, from the Pac-12, from the ACC. Mario Cristobal will probably rebuild Miami. I mean, they're struggling now, but this is his first year. Give him a chance. And Florida State, they've made clear progress under Mike Norvell, which I knew they would. He's a heck of a coach. Great coach at Memphis. And then you look at Clemson, and they've slipped a little, but they're still Clemson. So the point is, North Carolina, other schools, it's going to be interesting. But what it's going to do, Dan, it's going to probably mean 24 schools are still going to be in contention as you get into October and November. That's good for college football, because now all of a sudden you're paying attention to all those schools, aren't you? And what if we had 2 undefeated teams, which we've had at one time in 2015, very late in the year, we had 3 really good undefeated teams in Houston and Temple, and at the time, who else did we have, Dan? We had Navy had 1 loss, but Memphis, and Memphis had beaten Ole Miss in a huge upset after Ole Miss beat Alabama, and remember, that's the year Temple took Notre Dame right to the last second and could have easily won that game. Would have been an incredible upset. So we had 3 teams that everybody would have said were in the at-large pool as well, not just winning your conference. So it's going to open things up. Now, I'm a realist, and I understand where we stand. I also understand the power of the so-called P5 schools in terms of recruiting and how they use that branding and what it means, and also the fact that they have all that money and facilities, and that impresses recruits. NIL is a factor, though. It might be a leveling factor, Dan. I don't know, because we have some schools that could potentially end up with some serious sponsors who want to sponsor the kids. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We don't know what the transfer portal will do. We've developed tremendous teams by having, developing great players and having maybe a half dozen great players and a whole lot of good ones and top quarterbacks. So one thing I do as an aside, Dan, I don't know that there's any team in Division One these days that shouldn't have a really good quarterback, because nobody wants to be a second string or third string quarterback anymore. There are a lot of darn good ones, and they're all going to want to play. And you see that right now. I think 40% of the quarterbacks playing are transfers. Think about that. Look at Tanner Mordecai setting that incredible record at SMU. I mean, he's a transfer. Caleb Williams a transfer. You go back and forth, and they're all transfers. So I think everybody potentially could have a good quarterback, and everybody also, in my view, should have a good kicker, because that's the next most important position. And we've seen that again play out this year. The kicking game is absolutely critical to football. So everybody should have a pretty good shot at those positions.
Yeah, and I think, looking at this, obviously the college football playoff expansion is going to be a positive thing, and it's going to help out, the American Athletic Conference. And like you said, not a 5+1, but 6 highest ranked, and the 6 at large, which could very well go to that power 2 and make things, really, be good for Greg Sankey and SEC commissioner, looking at a year like this, like I said, where he could be seeing Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, bunch of teams get into this and have an opportunity at it. There's something else that I want to get to before I let you go here with Mike Aresco, American Athletic Conference Commissioner, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we head into the weekend. Earlier this week, the American Athletic Conference announced the future scheduling of you having, for the first time ever, your largest football conference in the history of the American coming right here as we head into the 10-year anniversary. You will be expanding in perfect timing here to celebrate a decade. You will have the biggest football conference you've ever had for the American, and one of the biggest football conference in the FBS with 14 institutions. The scheduling model, which was unanimously approved by all the athletic directors within the American Athletic Conference, is going to run in a format from 2023 to 2026 at least. And what we're going to see is we will see each team each season play 8 conference games, which is a norm here. Each team will face the other 13 conference teams at least twice during the 4-year cycle, which is different, once at home and once on the road. There's going to be 6 permanent matchups every season, which will be geographic connections here, as we have North Texas and SMU, UAB and Memphis, Rice and UTSA, Charlotte and East Carolina, Florida, Atlantic, aka FAU, and South Florida, and Navy versus Temple. So we are going to see this new format come into fruition. Would love to get your thoughts on it, Mike, because this new model, and it was when UConn left the conference in all sports, and you went down to 11 when it came to football. The question was, are you going to seek to expand? You and I talked about it a lot, and it was, will you go back to divisions? Well, there was a time where divisions were a necessity in order to have a conference championship, and the Big 12 had to go out there and apply for a waiver because they did not have that. So the question was basically, are you a viable conference if you don't have at least 12? Well, you had 11, you ran it with just one conference, no divisions, and then at a time where you could seek to go back to divisions, having 14, 7, and 7 like the ACC currently has. The ACC does away with their divisions and comes up with this model where they have a 3-5-5 model. Your model, similar but different, and not in the sense that you don't have the 3, that permanent 3 that a team is going to play every single season, but you have the permanent matchup. So we will see some of these matchups happen every single year, but there's not going to be that Navy's going to play the same 3 teams every year. They'll play Temple, but they don't have those other 2 slots. But you do give the opportunity that if you stay 4 or 5 years in college football, you're going to get to see every single team in your conference twice, once at home and once on the road. How important was it to have a home and home over a 4-year span so that everybody gets to play everybody in each other's place, and so that the conference can really feel like a conference and be cohesive? And then at the same time, I'd love to get your thoughts on why you chose the 6 matchups that you chose to showcase every year, as opposed to having a group of permanent opponents.
Well, Dan, one of our goals clearly was to have everyone play everyone, because you just alluded to it. I think you said it spot on. You want to be a real conference. You want to have some cohesion. You want to play everyone. And so we set out, we have a great consultant, a fellow named Kevin Paga, who does a great job working with conferences on scheduling. Scott Draper, our previous football administrator. Now Jamie Hickson has taken over for him. They worked hard to coordinate, all the research, and we realized that we wanted everyone in a 4-year period to play everyone home and away, and that's important because you see in some of these bigger conferences where they don't play it, they play everybody every 12 years or something. It's just or you can go 4 years and never play Ohio State if you're in the Big Ten. That's one of the privileges, I think, a brand like that, playing a great program like that, and you don't get to do it. So that was important. Second, divisions didn't make any sense for us anymore because you want to have your two best teams playing in the championship game. With the new playoff format, especially, you have to be a conference champion to be in that top 6. You want your two best teams playing. If you've got potentially 2 undefeated teams or 2 one-loss teams, and we've tried to set our schedules up so that you don't end up with necessarily three teams that don't play each other, who might be undefeated. And how do you decide who's in the championship game? So there's some nuances to this scheduling that are really important. But the point is, divisions don't make as much sense for us anymore, and therefore we haven't had them recently. We didn't think we needed them now. And then finally, you talked about the rivalries. We don't have the kind of rivalries the SEC and the ACC and the Big Ten have. We're a young conference. We're a conference that's very diverse. Conferences are schools that didn't necessarily have a lot in common with each other, but we develop rivalries like Memphis UCF, like Cincinnati UCF, right? And some of those will disappear now. But the point is, we looked at geography and we said Temple Navy is a natural to play, annually. They wanted to. UTSA and Rice, obviously Memphis and UAB have a long history before UAB joined our conference. So you had SMU, Houston's gone now, but so you have these 6. We ended up with 6 that we thought were real potential rivalries, but they're not the same. We're not arguing that it's Auburn, Alabama, that it's Ohio State, Michigan, but you develop them, and these are important geographically. So in schedule that could work with these rivalries in place. So we don't have 2 or 3 permanent opponents. We didn't want to do that because that would mean that your other teams are just not playing. And it wasn't as though, for instance, the SEC, I don't know what they're ultimately going to do. I don't think they've made a final decision, but if you're Alabama, you've got a serious rivalry with Tennessee, right? You've got a serious rivalry with Auburn. If you're Georgia, you've got a serious rivalry with teams you really do want to play every year. You have a 130, 140-year-old rivalry with Auburn. If you're, and so consequently in that league, you have, teams that have played each other for decades. And think about it. In the old SEC, Dan, sometimes, I don't know why they only played sometimes 6 conference games, and Alabama didn't play Georgia for a number of years. It's hard to think that was the case years ago, but it was. And, we wanted to, avoid that. And I think the SEC is trying to avoid that. I think a lot of the bigger conferences are trying the best they can to have teams play each other. 14, we're not quite as big as the Big Ten or the SEC, but we're bigger than we've been. That was a decision we made on the realignment front. You alluded to real. Thought that being bigger gave us some strength in numbers. We thought we were bringing in really good schools that could enhance our brand. You never know what realignment is going to bring down the road. Nobody knows. So we're happy with 14, but we also know that it's going to take some effort and time to make sure the new schools are fully, everything is, everybody is on the same page. We got great schools coming in. I'm very impressed with their presidents and their ADs. And as you know, UTSA has had great success this year. North Texas is playing well. UAB has an interim coach, but they've got a strong team. FAU is on the cusp. You've got some really good program. Rice is showing tremendous. They may make a bowl. They're showing real progress. So we're bringing in some good schools, and we expect them, with the exposure they're going to get in our league, appearances with ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. ABC is just going to be a little dicey because they've been over delivering on that. We don't know in the future whether we'll have the kind of games that we've had. I think we will, but the point is, there's going to be great exposure for a lot of these schools that haven't been getting it. They also have a little more revenue too. So I think the schedule it achieved what we wanted it to achieve, and it was unanimously voted on by the ADs. They're all happy with it. They'll like the balance of whom they're playing home and away year to year. And everybody gets to play in Texas, which is really important. It's one of the strengths of our conference, Dan. And, one of the things that I have talked about, they talk about some of these other conferences that are challenging us. And I say, look, if we do what we're supposed to do, we should still be a top conference. We have more money than our other, our chief. If you're smart and you do things right, we have a better TV exposure and better TV deal with ESPN's exposure and promotion. They're great partners. We think the transfer portal benefits us because of where our schools are. We're in football hotbeds, recruiting and the transfer portal. Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Florida. I mean, Alabama, you can't be in better places. We play great non-conference games. We promote heavily. Our P6 campaign will continue because obviously P5 is still being used. It's in our DNA to compete. The commitment and investment of our schools is going to continue. NIL is a wild card. Transfer portal is a bit of a wild card. But when you're in Texas, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, you're in the right places. So I'm confident that schedule will help us, that everybody will be happy with it, and we'll see where it goes.
That coming from the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Aresco, giving us a ton of information on the heels of the schedule release for 2023 through 2026 and everything with the college football playoff, as well as what we're looking at around the climate for the future of collegiate athletics, what it's going to look like and what it's going to feel like. Mike, as always, I appreciate the time, how candid you are, how much information you're always willing to give, and for a decade of you and I getting to have these conversations. You've always given me the time. You've given me the respect from the beginning, and I can't thank you enough for it. So I do appreciate it, and always great to have you here. I hope there's some good news to continue to come up, and very happy. And I was told a long time ago, the day that Willie Fritz was hired at Tulane, he was standing, and again, same room that I was talking about, the arm in arm when you and I were talking. I forget who I was speaking with, but I was standing off to the side and Willie Fritz was in front of me, and they said, hey, look at that guy over there. They said, that guy right there, he's won everywhere he's gone, and he's going to win here. And Willie Fritz brought them back to be a bowl team, and now Willie Fritz has got them in the top 20 and putting themselves in a fantastic place this season. So I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you, as I always do, for your time and all of the information you're willing to give, and just our bond that we've had over the years that I appreciate so much. This free way of information that you always allow me to share, and then at the same time to say a big shout out to Willie Fritz and all the work that he's put forward, because awesome guy, awesome place to coach, awesome city to be in, love the people down there, and couldn't be more proud for the Green Wave as they're rolling their own wave down there in Louisiana.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Willie. He is a great person, a great coach, and he's been a great coach for a long, long time. And, last year was completely deceptive. They started off and played Oklahoma to a draw, and the Oklahoma players said no team hit harder, and they played a great game. And then the hurricane, hit, and they had a lot of close games. Last year they lost to UCF 14-10. And Gus Malzahn was talking about how good that team was. So they gave Cincinnati a good game. I'm very thrilled with their progress and what they're doing, because it's a great program. Willie's a great guy, as you said. I'm going to be at their game with UCF this weekend. That should be a terrific game, and they should have a full house. It should be really exciting. And, again, Dan, congratulations on your 10 years. And again, we're approaching that anniversary, and we're really pleased about it. But thank you for all the coverage, all the goodwill over the years. It's meant a lot to us. And I'm always happy to be on your show. It's also nice to be on a show where somebody is as knowledgeable as you are, so we can talk about the issues. And I appreciate the opportunity. So again, if I don't talk to you, have a great, Thanksgiving holiday, and, maybe we'll get together before the holiday season, but if not, have a great holiday season as well. Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking, and we'll have plenty, hopefully, to talk about here
as UCF is having a nice final year in college football inside of the American Athletic Conference. Cincinnati's putting their work forward. East Carolina has gotten better. They are bowl eligible. Houston's knocking on the door of that, and there's some other teams that are working to get there within all of this with Tulane. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about, a lot of fun to be had, and we know that there's going to be a conference championship game coming up very soon here too. So excited for that, and excited for all of these teams that are facing each other right now, because there's a really good chance there's going to be a warm weather American football championship game, and I need that. So that'll be good.
It looks like there might be, based on well, you never know. And I don't know if Cincinnati would qualify as warm weather should they make it, but we're all playing each other, so it's going to be very dicey. But I do think we have the best teams, and I'm just thrilled with all of them. We, as you know, teams that are leaving, it's a little bittersweet, but we're thrilled for their success. I just enjoyed myself at Cincinnati so much last year. So proud of what they did, and it should be a great finish with a lot of great games coming up. Thanks again, Dan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. Hope you're having yourselves a tremendous morning this morning, spending some bonus time with you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Under promise, over deliver, and we're always happy to be here with you inside of these Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal, located for you on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, as well, and those are all in Syracuse, as well as on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and you'll find them on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location right there in North Syracuse. So make sure you head out to Cafe Kubal today. Let them know the Wake Up Call sent you their way, and fill your cup up right with their coffees, their teas, their chais, as well as get their awesome wonderful food opportunities, and you have the opportunity to also get out to Cafe Kubal and try those awesome treats. Those chocolate chip cookies are fantastical, and the chocolate chip banana bread, so get out there today. Big thanks to MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. They are hiring for all positions, so you can go to Indeed.com, search Ma and Paz. You can also go and call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272 to get in touch with them. So make sure you head out there and do that today if you'd like. If you're looking for a job for either you or your kids, or somebody in the family that's looking to have a great experience with a local company and have the opportunity for potential advancement, then head over to Ma and Paz today and give them a phone call, as well as go to Indeed.com and search their job postings. So plenty of opportunities there for full-time and part-time, as well as after-school opportunities. So make sure you get in touch with them. And a big thanks to Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory for all that they do here in our community and beyond. So inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', the annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver, proudly presented by the fantastic people at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. And, of course, our top dog of the week, honoring the Bryant Stratton men's soccer team here in Syracuse, and having a special Bobcat Buzz feature intertwined with the top dog of the week with Nick Dimitrievski, as he and his team are moving forward to play today in the semifinals of the USCAA national tournament, with an opportunity to become back-to-back-to-back national champions after winning 4-3 on PKs yesterday. They're playing at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time in Virginia Beach today, and the game that's currently going on is that the women's team, looking to become back-to-back national champions for Bryant Stratton College of Syracuse women's soccer, they're out there right now playing their game currently. So make sure you stay close to our social media for updates and information on that. And a big thanks to the American Athletic Conference, and of course Mike Aresco, somebody that I've known for almost a decade now, built a friendship with professionally and personally, has been an incredible part of my life, and I thank him so much for his kind words, his dedication, and always making time for the show, and his being very candid and very open about many different topics here on Wake Up Call. So God bless to you, Mike Aresco, and thank you for that. With that being said, we want to thank you for watching and listening every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Facebook.com, MixLR.com, and YouTube.com, all /WakeUpCallDT on WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage, and on on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT. So however you're connecting with the show, thank you so much for being a part of it. Once we go live, we jump into the archives, and you'll find us on any one of these many outlets. You can go to Amazon Music, Audible, as well as iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. Search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, on any one of those outlets. A big thanks to our incredible partners, Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Witty Wicks, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, PB&J's Lunchbox, Honda City of Liverpool, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Mother's Cupboard, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, and Chick-fil-A Watertown. And Wake Up Call is the proud exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your College Dolphins. And it spins up every single month here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, every first and third Wednesday of each month at 9 a.m. Eastern Time during Dolphin Time. You have the opportunity to hear from AD and DT, and every second and fourth Wednesday we bring you the Dolphin Dive, diving into the stories of student athletes as well as coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. So make sure you go and check out all of these stories that we have for you every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This week we brought you AD and DT and Dolphin Dive under promise over deliver, as of course it's always fins up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Your Dolphin content is available for you on our Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com, including our exclusive series on realignment and reclassification. It has come from us and only us. We've been the first ones to it, and we've had the information before anybody else releasing it with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and President Dr. Linda Lemura. That exclusive series is available to you with all of our content on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com. You can also get all of our content with Lemoyne by subscribing to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And for more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com, their newly redesigned website. The Bryant Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse bring you the Bobcat Buzz every single month in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the Bobcats. You can find the Bobcats here with us all throughout the month, as well as today here celebrating them as the top dog of the week once again, as the men's team wins on PKs 4-3 to move on in the USCAA National Tournament to the semifinal round today. Big congratulations to them, and a big thanks to Head Coach Nick Dimitrievski for joining me here to celebrate that victory and to talk about the upcoming game that they'll be playing at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time today. So big shout out to them. You can find all our Bobcats content by going to the BSC Syracuse tab on wakeupcalldt.com and by subscribing to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. The Bobcat Buzz coming to you exclusively every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with student athletes, administration, and coaches celebrating our Bobcats in our beautiful community of Central and Upstate New York and beyond. I want to thank you for being a part of the show today and of every single week. I cannot thank you enough. I would be wrong if I didn't leave the show today by saying one final note. Happy Veterans Day to all of our incredible veterans that are out there, those that are with us today on Earth. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, for those of you serving now, for those of you thinking about serving, and for those of you who have served, I would love to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Every single day it means something to me, not just on Veterans Day, but always. I am the proud grandson of two veterans, and I am the proud great nephew of many, many veterans as well. So I cannot thank you enough. My Uncle Carmen is alive here on this planet, and he is a veteran of multiple wars. So I want to give a big shout out, much love to my Uncle Carmen. God bless you, and thank you for everything. I love you, sir. And, you know, I'm so happy that God has kept him going through a very tough time medically. So please say a prayer for my great Uncle Carmen if you get the chance to, for healing and health, safety, and happiness and all the good stuff. So a big thanks and much love to my Uncle Carmen, and to everybody who has served. Thank you for putting your lives on the line. Thank you for standing up for freedom. Anybody who does not respect the freedom and respect the people that stand up for freedom and do things the right way and protect us. Listen, when you wake up in the morning and you're safe in your home, and you go home and you're safe in your home, and you sleep and you're safe in your home, somebody somewhere is protecting you that you don't even know, that probably will never meet you. So remember that freedom should be free, but it has not come free. And a lot of people have laid down their lives and put their lives on the line for our freedoms. So please remember to show love, show respect, and just appreciate those that have done the job that so few would ever want to do, let alone would ever actually have themselves do. So I cannot thank you enough. I stand for freedom. I don't know anybody that wouldn't, but in a country that doesn't always say thank you, and in a country that has forgotten who we are, I want to say thank you today and every day for those of you that put your lives on the line, for those of you that have protected me and my family, to my family that has gone out there and protected the lives of so many strangers. Thank you to our veterans. Thank you to everyone who served, who is serving now, and who will serve. God bless you. May God keep you, save you, protect you, love you, and bring you home safe and sound to your loved ones. Thank you for all you do, and God bless you, always and forever. With that being said, we look forward to talking with you soon, and as always, God bless, no stress.